and welcome to this latest episode. I think it's episode number 7 of the Rora Rundown Sports Podcast. I'm Chris Gay, your host, and I'm joined by my co-hosts, Zach Cloud and Weston Bailey. So we're going to go ahead and get right into some stuff. So, I don't know if y'all have any questions dialed up in your minds. Just some stuff, sort of as like an icebreaker, but my first observation outside of Division II college football, Division I college football has been, definitely something that everybody's been keeping up with. And I know, Zach, you and I are big Hog fans, and so it's been not a great season, and it wasn't a great weekend for us. But my first question, I'm going to get us started hot. Is Texas really back? Because,
that's got to be a question aimed at me.
I know.
That's got to be a question aimed at me.
It exactly was, because I don't know when the last time that Texas, and you are from Texas, and yep. I think you said you were from the Austin area.
I am.
So, yeah, definitely that game was a stinger, and against a team that is good. A lot better than I think a lot of people realize.
I'll save the soapbox for the end of the episode.
Okay, all right. But Zach, if you want to add to that, but anyway, so we'll go ahead and get started with Ouachita football. So they defeated East Central University in Ada, Oklahoma this weekend. So at least a Arkansas team got a win. So they beat them 31-14 on Saturday. And looking right away at the breakdown of this game, actually before we do that, Kendall Givens, the star running back for Ouachita, he's just 2 touchdowns away from breaking Ouachita's all-time rushing touchdown record.
Wow.
And I know every once in a while I say, oh, he's so far, and I know it's a record that's definitely within reach for him, and I think a lot of teams probably know it is. So, they're keying in on him, but, I got to say the passing attack has been fantastic this past week, if y'all want to talk about that.
I'm going to go ahead and jump down here a little bit. I know we have a lot of stats to cover, but Connor Flanagan, our slot receiver and probably just the best playmaker on our team in general, had another 100-yard-plus game with another touchdown. That's been essentially every single week so far. And if my eyes don't deceive me, Flanagan leads the Great American Conference in receptions with 38, with receiving yards with 588, just shy of 600, receiving touchdowns in 6, receiving yards per game at 98, and receptions per game at 6.3. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. We have the best receiver in the conference, and the stats back it up. And I think we kind of saw that last year. There was a bunch of flashes, but we were still in that run-heavy offense because we had a super talented backfield. Not to say we don't have a talented backfield this year, but the pass game has just been an emphasis like we know it has been. And when you have the best wide receiver in the conference at your disposal, man, it sure is fun.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Weston in saying that Connor Flanagan's the best receiver in the conference. I don't think you can really make an argument for it, honestly. He's turned 100-yard games into just regular outings for him. Like we said, for this game, he had 11 catches, 2 touchdowns, and it's what we expect from him. But I also think an awesome weapon that we've had over the season in our pass game is being able to dump it to Kendall Givens because, we think of him as like a bigger running back. He's got all these touchdowns, rushing touchdowns, and rushing yards. But, his receiving touchdowns, I feel like they don't need to go unnoticed because he's got a handful of those over the course of the season. And it's really good to know that, we're able to rely on him in the pass game. And like in this game, he had 3 catches, but he went for 60 yards and a touchdown. So I think that's definitely one of the most – over the course of this season, that's one of the most or highest yardage totals he's had in receiving for a game. So – he definitely does not need to go unnoticed behind Flanagan. And Kemontre McKnight, he's been solid for us all year. He had 3 catches for 34 yards, and Chris Hightower also added a 20-yard big gain for us. So, yeah, we've definitely got a lot of weapons in the pass game for Riley Harms.
Yeah, and considering the fact that Ouachita, I think it's still kind of hard for us to imagine Ouachita was not a passing team really a year ago, and certainly not in 2021. So, but yeah, and to add to Weston your claim, I don't know, and as Flanagan is the top receiver in the conference. I mean, the stats do back him up. I don't think there's another receiver with like as many yards. I think the next closest receiver in regards to receiving yards, when I was looking earlier, I don't think they were even at 400 receiving yards yet. And I mean, 98 yards a game, 6 games into the season. It's just, oh man, it's just crazy. But definitely having a guy like that at your disposal is great for Harms, which has also made his stats look fantastic. I mean, in a conference with some good quarterbacks, DeMillon Brown's a great quarterback, and then as Ouachita students hate to admit it, but Henderson State actually has a pretty good passing game as well. So, when I look at that breakdown for both teams, though, we talk a lot about the individual stat leaders for Ouachita, but this game, the score wasn't, and you had actually, and Weston, you had mentioned, I remember you saying like last week's game, though it was a win, it was like the first game the offense didn't look as explosive as it had all year long.
Correct.
Sort of a similar situation with this game, 31-14. I think it may have been the least amount of points that Ouachita scored this season. That I'm not 100% sure about, but yeah, the score's not what we've seen from Ouachita this season, but 404 total yards for Ouachita versus 278 for East Central, and something that I was actually surprised with, East Central never had a red zone opportunity. They never even attempted anything in the red zone. Ouachita had 3 trips to the red zone, converted 2 of them, and then the third down conversions for Ouachita, they were right at 50%. 8 of 16. East Central was 2 of 9, and I think that's just sort of something we've seen all year long. Not only has Ouachita's offense been stellar, and they also were 1 of 1 on 4th down, but they've been so good just to the point of I've gotten points whenever they've needed to, and there have been very few possessions where they got to send out Joe Couch to punt the ball away or even Gabe Goodman to get a field goal. But something I'd like to bring attention to is 2 of 9 third down conversion that they allowed, and also 45 total plays for East Central compared to 75 total plays for Ouachita. There were just a lot of numbers that I was like, ooh, this is big time. But, yeah, so that draws my attention to the defense. And one name that stuck out right away was Rovell Carter coming in at defensive tackle. Had 5 tackles, 2 tackles for a loss, and a sack. The only sack of the game for Ouachita. So he was an absolute game wrecker. And we got a star running back, Kendall Givens, just walked by. We have a little window in our podcast studio, so great to see some of the celebrities on this campus. And, but anyway, so he just totally threw me off of what I was saying. Oh, Rovell Carter. He had a fantastic game. As I said, he had a sack. But then we also got 2 interceptions, one by Dawson Miller, another by number 1 corner Mario Ganter Jr. So we've been putting a lot of pressure on the quarterback and a lot of pressure on those receivers, and definitely a lot of pressure on that running game, allowing only 79 rushing yards. So outside of football, we have Ouachita volleyball. They played, and by the time last episodes, I say this every week, but by the time the last episode came out, Ouachita had already played and beaten Arkansas Pine Bluff. It was at home last Tuesday. They won in 4 sets, and I was on the call for that game. That first set, Ouachita looked outstanding, and they looked outstanding for the game. But this is a Division I program. Yes, they are in the SWAC conference. Not as strong of a conference as what you would typically think of, but it's still a Division I program. You have to respect them. And the Golden Lions really struggled to get anything going in that first set. But then that second set, it was like they woke up. I don't know what their problem was in that first set, but they woke up, and they really gave Ouachita some problems winning in that second set. But I look at that game, and our stars came out to play. we had 4 players with double-digit kills, and but yes, the offense has been there all season long, but the defense was definitely there. They only allowed about 12% as a hitting percentage from a Division I program, which was excellent. When I look at that team, Emily Adams was clearly the top player for Ouachita. She had 13 kills and 3 block assists, 1 solo block. She was definitely a game wrecker for Ouachita volleyball. Leah Gardner had 12 kills, 3 block assists. Riley Brazil had 11 kills, also had 2 service aces and an assist, a block assist, and a solo block. Kayla Steinmeier had 10 kills, and Haley Fairchild had 9. So definitely, like I said, the stars came out to play. And I'll let y'all talk about this one. I always feel like I'm hogging the mic a little bit, but I'll let y'all talk. Ouachita volleyball played and lost at home in 5 sets to a conference opponent, the Bulldogs of Southwestern Oklahoma State, who so far on the season are 10-6, 5-2 Great American Conference play. They played them and lost on Friday, so just talk about that. This was obviously a very good team that was coming into Arkadelphia, so it was going to be a great game regardless, and Ouachita just came up short.
Just short is exactly right. And what I'm about to say kind of applies to both games that you just talked about. Going back to that Pine Bluff game for a second, you said that Pine Bluff came out on fire that second set. And I think the most impressive thing from Ouachita in that set is, even though I'm pretty sure that was the only one they lost, there was never a panic button, right, from any of the girls, any of the coaching staff. Everybody was calm, cool, collected, and they got right back out there in the third set and showed why they can be a top team in this conference. And like you said, Southwestern came in, who is a fantastic program this year, and we knew it was going to be a close game. And even though we lost in 5 sets, we went to 5 sets, right? There was never a panic by any of the girls by a set lost. It's not like they're taking moral defeats by any means. I mean, I think this team's confidence continues to grow week in and week out, and we're seeing that on paper by close game after close game. And a lot of these have actually been wins. So, I mean, I think Ouachita continues to trend in the direction that they're going, and they could make a surprise run here at the end of the year.
Just talking about our playmakers for the game, Kayla Steinmeier, Riley Brazil, Emily Adams, Leah Gardner, they all led us like usual. Haley Fairchild. Kayla Steinmeier had 14 kills, 1 block assist. Riley Brazil, she had 11 kills with a service ace and a block assist. Emily Adams had 10 kills, 3 block assists. That's impressive. Leah Gardner, 10 kills, 1 block solo and 3 block assists. And Haley Fairchild had 9 kills and 2 block assists. Courtney Hansen, she had 3 kills but led the way like she always does with assists with 47, and she also had 2 service aces.
Well, even though Ouachita did come away with a loss, they still had a better hitting percentage than the Bulldogs, and they did force 46 total errors, and they only had 37 of their own. So now, why did they lose? Well, it's because the Bulldogs had 4 players with double-digit kills and 2 players with 20-plus assists. So that offensive efficiency is always going to help out, but definitely a lot of positives you can take away. And all those sets were pretty close, except in Ouachita, their first set, which Ouachita won 25-12. Now, their homestand did not end there. They played and beat Northwestern Oklahoma State, who was 7-11 coming into this game, or actually leaving this game. They played them here at home, and they won in 4 sets. And again, the Stars came out and played. Riley Brazil, 13 kills, 3 service aces, and shot 50%. And Kayla Steinmeier, 12 kills. Lee Gardner, 9 kills and 4 service aces. And you don't usually see a middle blocker serve very often, but definitely not one getting 4 service aces. And then Emily Adams and Courtney Hansen also had stat-stuffing games. But the hitting percentage was definitely something that they, in the solid hitting percentage in the previous game was definitely something they wanted to build upon. And they came out and shot just under 37%, forced about 14% from the Rangers. So we're going to go ahead and change to swim and dive. They hosted Oklahoma Christian this past weekend, and the men won, and For those that are not familiar with swimming and diving scoring, it's all swim and dive. They have their own separate events, but they're all combined together for one total score. And then your record is determined if it's just you competing. If it's one team competing against just another single team, then that goes, counts against your record. And the men, they were able to win by just 4 points. It was 119 to 115. And then the women lost 122 to 102, which sounds like that was a pretty big deficit. It's really not. Sometimes one final event can change the tide of a score. But regardless of the score, the Tiger Sharks, they had 11 total event winners. For the women, Kate McCown, she won the women's 1,000 freestyle. Kelly Holcomb won the women's 200 freestyle. Anna Phelps won the women's 400. And she also did win the 200 butterfly, so she's probably the MVP that you can take away from that event, winning 2 big events. Abigail Connard won the women's 1-meter dive, and Bella Howell won the women's 3-meter dive. And then for the men, Jeff McCoy won the men's 200 freestyle. Elijah Christensen won the men's 200 butterfly. Tyler Andrus won the men's 500 freestyle. Carson Powers won the men's 1-meter dive, and Gavin Richardson won the men's 3-meter dive. But they also had 26 other players placing second and third place in various competitions. And, oh, man, that's a lot of success right there. I know the women didn't come away with the win ultimately, but individually they had a lot of success. So speaking of success, Ouachita women, they have been having a fantastic season. But this past weekend, they found success, and then they were not met with success at times. They suffered their first defeat of the season, and it was when they went to Shawnee, Oklahoma to play Oklahoma Baptist. They lost 0-2. Looking at those numbers, looked like the fouls might have been a reason, but honestly, it was probably just the offensive execution for Oklahoma Baptist. 16 shots for the Bisons versus only 11 for Ouachita. So, and actually, we're going to have an interview here soon with 2 members of Ouachita's women's soccer team, Jamie Fowler and Gracen Turner. They're going to talk a little bit about this game and sort of what's coming up. Well, that'll be right after this segment. But and then they played again. They played against Southern Nazarene, and definitely again in enemy territory. But it was pretty clear they looked a lot better.
Agreed. And the first loss had to come at some point, right? I think nobody expected us to go flawless on the entire season. And with such a powerhouse team like this, you'd rather have a little struggle early and have time to figure it out than, get cold towards the end of the season. And I think what's most important is that you won that last game, right? You lost your first game of the week, but the end of the week on a win and carry that momentum going into the next week, I think is huge. Fernanda Valencia with another goal in that second game. I think that's her 3rd goal of the season, maybe. There's going to be girls that continue to contribute more and more as the season goes on. And, they're having probably their most successful season, at least the most successful start to a season in a really long time.
And whatever we did on defense against Southern Nazarene really made a huge difference in the game, because looking at our first game that we lost, OKBU, they had 16 shots and 8 on goal, but compared to Southern Nazarene's, when we beat Southern Nazarene, they only had 6 shots and 3 on goal. That's a huge difference. And also our fouls, we were really able to clean the game up. We had 16 fouls in our first game, but in our second game that we turned around and won, we cut it in less than half, and we only had 7 fouls compared to Southern Nazarene's 14. So that's a huge swing in the game.
Yeah, definitely right. And like I said, I have that interview. So let's take a listen to Jamie Fowler and Gracen Turner. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Chris Gay, and I'm joined with Jamie Fowler and Gracen Turner, two grad students on the women's soccer team. Thank you both for being here. So we'll go ahead and get right into it. So this season has been a phenomenal season already for the soccer team. And 6-1-4 so far on the season. I know there was a heartbreaking loss last week. And in that last loss, what were some things that you guys took away, that the team took away, that you can head into this upcoming game against Harding?
I think when we lost, I think it was because it was our first loss, and so I think one thing that we took away as a group is we had like a fire in us, I guess, from losing and like walking away with that loss. It created a fire in us, and like that's what we went into SNU with, Southern Nazarene.
Yeah, I would say it was pretty uncharacteristic of us against OKBU, and we were very disappointed after. And so going into our game against SNU, we had some anger in us, and we wanted to prove that that's not the team that people should be expecting. So.
When you were heading into that Southern Nazarene game, what were some things that you were seeing out there that have allowed you all to be so successful? I mean, it's a 2-0 victory for you guys in enemy territory. You know, what were some things that you guys saw either in tape or practice, whatever, that were like, all right, we can exploit this. This is something we can make our money off of?
I think one of the things our coach really emphasized going into SNU was winning first and second balls. That's something we didn't do really well against OKBU. And I also would say just the energy of the whole team with the starters. They started off high intensity, and even like people coming off the bench kept that same intensity. Yeah. So I would say that was a big difference maker for sure.
Well, Jamie, last time I checked, you were third in the Great American Conference in goals. And, you came off a hot start. I think you had 2 goals in your first game of the season. And what allowed you to be so successful so early offensively?
Oh, that's a good question. I really think it starts in the midfield. Just the way our formation is kind of allowing the midfielders to, like, make a third run, but also, like, allowing getting second balls, too. So, like, when we switch, like, with midfielders, it allows me, like, as the center, to kind of judge on what the midfield's doing. I don't know. It's kind of you got to read it, but I think that's what, like, then a connection with the midfield is really what kind of helps me. So that allowed me to get into those secret areas.
Well, in my limited soccer knowledge, I sort of kind of got that. No, you're good. No. But, and this is a question for both of y'all, since you both are graduate students, and you came in 2018 and you in 2019. What are some differences that you see in the team now that are so different compared to the team, back then?
I think for me is how fast. Like, when I came in 2018, it was a pretty solid team with lots of, even I had a 5th year, my freshman year. But I think the level of competitiveness and then the speed to also go along with that has really stepped up our game as, like, a whole team.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. I think just the competitiveness on the team, it's making our practices even more competitive, so we're playing at a higher level. That makes us play at an even higher level when we're in those games. So I would agree with Jamie.
Well, now that you two are, like, sort of the veterans on the team, and but when you look at the team now, you guys have a lot of young players that are playing in key roles so far this year. So what have you two been able to provide them? Y'all are the veteran presence on the team. What have y'all been able to tell them, those young freshmen that are now, or even sophomores that are getting key roles this season?
I'm still going to shoot it back to, like, in practice, encouraging a higher tempo, a quicker tempo, get them used to, like, playing faster in practice, because that does relate to on the field. So I think that's what helps them the most is, practicing how you play at that quicker tempo.
Yeah, and I would just say being encouragers as well, because we've both been in that position where we were young and getting a lot of minutes, and so just like building their confidence, and when they have bad pass or a bad game, just being there to support them and encourage them along the way.
So Harding's coming up. That's a big game. You guys have played them already this season, ended in a tie, and then played last season. You sort of split the series, a win and a tie in that one. What have you all been expecting with the Bisons?
I would say we actually practiced that today, so it's fresh on the mind, but they are super high intensity. So as soon as you get the ball, there's gonna be about like 4 players surrounding you. So today we really focused on like absorbing that pressure and being able to play out of tough situations like that.
Well, midway point of the year is just about here. What are some things that y'all have learned about yourselves from the first half of the season that y'all are going to take? Conference championships coming up, and what is it, just the top 4 or 5 teams that make it into the playoffs? So just what are some things you've learned that you can take into now the conference, deep conference run?
Oh, that's a really good question. Oh, goodness. I would just say being mindful that anything can happen, really. We've had an obstacle against OKBU, and so really anything can happen. So just staying committed and being strong at the end of the season, even though we're tired, probably just still being really dedicated and wanting to win.
But I also think going and looking back at our film and kind of knowing what we did wrong in the moment, or if we did anything that we could change, I think using that going forward is going to help us as well. Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to circle back on my question about your 4 goals so far this season. Do you keep up with that number? Is that just something that's important to you, or does it really even matter? I think your coach might want a correct answer here.
I think I take it more personally. If I don't, have an assist or I score, I take that as a loss for me. So that's more of my I don't care if I don't keep count of that stuff, but I just want to make an impact on the game, and if I make an impact, that's a win for me. And also the ending of the game is also a win for the whole team, but I don't personally keep up with it, but I take it as a win for me.
So I imagine this will be you two the last season here at Ouachita. So I imagine it's a little bit of an emotional final season, but I imagine the goal here, of course, not only for you guys but for the freshmen, is to come away with a conference championship. So is there anything else that y'all are trying to work with in practice, that you're trying to work towards that goal?
Yeah, I think that's our ultimate goal for sure, and especially with it being our last chance at it, we think about it every day going into practice, and so I would just say I think we're all giving our all for sure to come out with a championship.
Well, I think for us, last season was a heartbreak for us because we thought we were done. We were ready to put up our cleats, and then just something came in us that we wanted to come back and do it again, because that was what we wanted for the team and for us.
Yeah. Oh, actually, kind of my next question. What inspired you two to come back? I mean, y'all didn't have to come back, but you both, wanted to, and what allowed y'all to do that?
So, mine was a little bit of a unique situation. I decided, so after our fall season, I decided that it was time to, call it and be done and, move on. But as the spring semester came, they were practicing, and I really missed it. And it just didn't make sense for me to waste that extra year that I had. And so it took not too much convincing to get me to come back, but I'm really glad that I did.
I think it didn't take a lot to convince me. I know we made a bet that if I came back, she would come back. But hers took a little bit longer for her to come back. But I think one really big person in my life that was encouraging. He's also an Ouachita alumni. Is my brother, and I think he was just in my ear a lot, and it also didn't make sense. I wasn't ready to move on, but there wasn't a negative of staying. So I think with all of that put together, it was, and we're getting our master's out of it. So I think that's another point that helped us come back and make it easier.
So after the season, I imagine both of you have big plans. So what are some, some career goals? Obviously, you have your athletic goals that y'all are working towards, but I know in the back of your minds, you got career goals after season's over. So what are those?
Yeah, so I'm in the year program for the Exercise Science Masters. And while I'm getting that, I also am applying to dental school. So I will find that out in December. So hopefully that'll be my next step career-wise.
Well, I'm getting my master's in education. So I want to stick with the sports and give my knowledge to people who are coming up. And I want to be a teacher and a coach for high school.
Well, that's awesome. We always need more teachers, and good luck on dental school. So that'll be great. I did say that right?
Yes,
okay,
yes,
sorry.
Yeah, no.
All right. I didn't want to make sure I forgot, but thank you both again for joining me. This is Jamie Fowler, Gracen Turner, and thank you so much.
Yeah,
Thanks for having
you.
us.
And it was great listening to, and actually great for me to talk with, Jamie Fowler and Gracen Turner, both graduate students for Ouachita women's soccer. They had a lot of great things to say and definitely have a very positive attitude and a positive outlook on this season, and rightfully so. I mean, they're doing pretty good so far. Now, for Ouachita men's soccer, they are still looking for that first win, and they did not get it this weekend. They lost 1-4 at Rogers State. This is a very good Rogers State team who is 6-2-2 and 3-1-0 in conference play. They lost on Friday, and the clear key in that game, or as to why they lost, was the offense for Rogers State, allowing 25 shots, 13 shots on goal, and Ouachita's just got to get better, but they didn't necessarily improve, even though C.J. Washington scored his first goal of the season. Again, offense has been an issue at times, but their next game, it was pretty clear the defense was probably an issue as well, losing in Bethany, Oklahoma to Southern Nazarene 0-4, and 32 shots, 10 shots on goal by Southern Nazarene compared to 5 shots by Ouachita. Not a single shot on goal. That's not a great number. I'm just going to say that, but the offensive execution was looking really good last week. They just had a setback, but second half of the season's coming down. If they want any chance to compete in postseason play, the time is now. So they got to get some wins, and they got to get them really soon. So men and women cross country, after they competed in the Chili Pepper Invitational, that was a big festival for them. But they just had a big performance at the University of the Ozarks Invitational. This was on Saturday, where the women's cross-country team, they were tied for first overall, and the men came in second overall. But for the men, we don't usually see that, and of course the points totals are all cumulative. It's just adding up everybody's points and basing it off that. But the men, we don't usually get to say, oh, we had a guy win a big event. Evan Armitage won the 8K race with a time of 26 minutes and 14 seconds, and he won that event by a 12-second margin. Tate Stacks came in fourth, and Nathan Miller finished seventh in that same race. And then, but looking at, as I said, they're judged based off how many points they score. So the men scored 36 points, which got them second, behind Freed Hardeman University with 26 points. But they were ahead of their host, University of the Ozarks. Arkansas, Rich Mountain, Philander Smith, Science and Arts of Oklahoma, and Lemoyne. Owen, definitely some respectable programs that they were finishing above. And the women, it seemed like Ouachita and Freed-Hardeman were the two teams to beat in this past festival. The women tied, as I mentioned, tied for first place with 34 points with Freed-Hardeman. And for Ouachita, Amelia Erickson had the best time and actually came in fourth in the 5K with a time of 18 minutes and 59 seconds. Blair Turpin took fifth. Colette Snow took ninth. And Ellie Homan placed 10th. So overall, Ouachita actually had 14 runners in the top 25 spots. And then also finishing above the University of Ozarks, their host. You know, as a Ouachita fan, you got to love to say this. We finished above Henderson State, as well as Philander Smith, National Park College, Williams Baptist, and Lemoyne Owen. So Ouachita cross country has had back-to-back solid outings, and even had a really good outing their previous event at the Trevecca National Tournament. So looking at the overall records as of October 9, 2023, which is when we are filming, Ouachita football is 6-0, and they're going to look to carry on that total going into next week, where they have a very tough opponent, and we'll tell you why they are very tough. Volleyball is 11-11, 3-4 in the Great American Conference. Women's soccer is 6-1-4 on the season, 3-1-1 in Great American Conference play. Men's soccer 0-8-3, 0-3-2 in Great American Conference. And both women's and men's swim and dive, of course, they completed their first match where they played an individual team, so they both were able to rack up a loss and a win. The women are 0-1 on the season, and the men are 1-0. So now it's time for our Tiger Prowl preview. So women's soccer will be the first athletic event this coming week. Women will play Harding, as I mentioned as we talked about in the interview. Harding is 3-5-4, 1-2-3 in Great American Conference play. This will be Wednesday at 4 p.m. Ouachita men's tennis will have representatives at the ITA Cup in Rome. And no, that is not Rome like, we think about every single day. The ancient Roman Empire. But no, this is Rome, Georgia. No disrespect to Rome, Georgia. Very beautiful place. Never been there, but I've heard some things. But anyway, Fernando Doctors and Ramon Strassman will both be representing Ouachita in Georgia, and this will be a long event, this Thursday through next Monday. Ouachita men's soccer, they will also play the Bisons at Harding, and guess what? They are also 3-5-4, 1-2-3 in conference play, and that will be Thursday at 6 p.m. And then Ouachita volleyball, that will also be on the road. They will travel to Ada, Oklahoma, and they will play East Central, who is has 8 wins, 10 losses, and is 3-4 in GAC play. That will be Thursday at 6 p.m. OBU women's tennis, they will host the Tiger Ready Invitational this Friday through Saturday. We've already seen this sort of event already happen. Ouachita volleyball got it going earlier in September, and that was a very entertaining tournament for them. It was actually the tournament that got them back on track as far as their record. But now women's tennis will be hosting it. No idea if they're going to be playing yet. Ouachita volleyball will travel again, this time on Friday, and they have a busy weekend. But like I said, they play Thursday and they will play Friday, and it will be also in Oklahoma. It'll be in Durant, Oklahoma, and they will play Southeastern Oklahoma State, who's 7-10, 3-4 so far on the season. Ouachita women's and men's swim and dive, they will host the Tritons of Missouri St. Louis. And right now, both of the Tritons teams, the men and the women's swim and dive teams, have suffered one loss apiece, have not found a win so far. That will be this Saturday at 10 a.m. And then Ouachita women's soccer, they will play East Central, and this will be at noon on Saturday after their Harding game. And East Central trying to find a win. They're 1-7-3, 1-1-3 in conference play. And like I said, that's noon on Saturday. Also on Saturday, men's soccer play Northeastern State, who are 4-3-3, 2-2-1 in Great American Conference play. And it'll be at 2 p.m. And then finally, also on Saturday, and this will be a late game. We actually haven't seen a late game so far this year. But it will be Ouachita football will be playing at Harding University. So they're going to travel to Searcy, and that'll be Saturday at 6 p.m. And looking at Harding, this is going to be the battle of the unbeatens. They're also 6-0, and so is Ouachita. And they're coming off a monster win against Northwestern Oklahoma State, 62-0. I'm thinking that was just about the same score that we had against 66. The Rangers. Yeah, it was. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right at 66-0. And look, those that know Great American Conference football know that Harding loves to run the football, and I guess we're probably going to see quite a bit of that this year.
You're not wrong. As you said, Harding is known for running the ball, as we have been, in the past. I think that this game is going to be extremely unique because, although I think it will be a physical game, it's always been a physical game in the past with two run-heavy offenses. Just an absolute brawl out there on the field. I'm looking at it right now. Even last year, we ended up winning the game, but it was 21-13, right? Not a single team scored over. That's lower. That's 10 points lower than any score we've had to start this year. It is going to be a great one. I think the real test for Ouachita is throughout these weeks of doing these podcasts, we've always talked light on how great our secondary has played against. And that's usually because we're up in games and teams have to pass the ball against us. But this week it's going to be a front seven test for the big boys up front and to penetrate the line of scrimmage and ultimately win it. And I think whoever's front seven plays better in this game is going to win it.
Yeah, and looking at it, if you're Ouachita, this is it. This is your big test. We've obviously 6-0. We've been looking for, we've been winning our games and taking care of business. But this is our, the three-headed monster of the conference, OBU, Harding, Henderson. This is going to be a great test for OBU, and it's honestly it's nice. It's kind of a luxury that we're able to play Harding before Henderson every year. That way, because as an OBU student going to OBU, it's hard to not have your eyes set on the Henderson game, but you got to take care of business first. You got to be able to take down Harding, and it's always good to have a really good first test against a team like Harding before you play against Henderson at the end of the year. So I'm excited to see what's going to happen. Obviously, we've got lots of faith in OBU. I don't think we're going to be able to – I definitely don't think we're going to fall to Harding, but like what Weston was talking about earlier, our front seven's going to have to be able to outplay theirs if we want to come out with a win.
Well, and, the number one rivalry for Ouachita is obviously with the Reddies of Henderson State. That is the Battle of the Ravine rivalry that's held at the end of the season every year. And then Harding is clearly the number two rivalry, and it's not just one of those. It's like, well, if we have to pick somebody that we don't like, well, we'll pick Harding. No, that's always a big time rivalry every single season. And sort of on the subject of rivalries and Texas, losing to Oklahoma.
Chill, I see that horn down over there.
Losing to Oklahoma when apparently, what was Texas number 3 coming into that game?
Texas was 3, OU was 12.
Yeah, as Arkansas fans, I think we don't like Oklahoma either, but I think in that game, most people are going to root for not Texas. But what happened? What happened?
We lost. That's what happened.
But y'all weren't supposed to.
I think that our defense has been so good this year, and it necessarily wasn't there against Oklahoma. But then again, we had three or four turnovers throughout the game, which put our defense in rough positions multiple times. Quinn Ewers threw an interception on the second play of the game, which set them up for 1st and goal, almost right away. But I really think it was just lack of – we missed our opportunities. We dropped the interception in the end zone. We had 1st and goal towards the end of the game and failed to convert a touchdown or even get any points out of that drive. I definitely don't think it's to be blamed on the quarterback play. He had 2 interceptions. The second one, I don't know if y'all were watching, I don't think was his fault. Ball popped straight up into the air, off of a receiver's hand and just happened to come out in an OU player's hand. But I saw a stat on Twitter earlier today, and it was like after that, in the second half, I think Quinn Ewers was 25 for 26 for 320 yards and a touchdown. So, he definitely showed a lot of heart. It obviously sucks to lose a game like that. I think our clock management could have been a little bit better on that last drive of the game. But I'll tell you what, I still think that Texas can control their own destiny this season. I still think that if we win out the rest of the season, we'll end up playing Oklahoma again in the Big 12 championship. And if we're able to win that game, I still think there's talks for a college football playoff. And to answer your question, I do think that Texas is back. For some reason, the whole country sets a standard that if Texas is going to be back, we have to be winning natties every year. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think when the whole meme was going on of how Texas was so bad, we were unranked for years and years, right, after being so successful in the early 2000s. But I think that we have the best quarterback room in the country. I think that we have a top 5 running back room in the country. If Quinn Ewers gets drafted this year, I think that I'm not only excited about Arch Manning, but I'm excited about the talent that Arch Manning brought in with him, because when he committed, you had 5 and 4 stars all over the country wanting to come play with Manning. And so I expect some long-tenured success from Texas, and if we don't, then I'll be really sad.
Question: are you also a Cowboys fan?
I am not a Cowboys fan. I am not a Cowboys fan.
I was gonna say, because that's what you saying that. Oh,
it would have been a miserable weekend.
Yeah,
it would have been a miserable weekend.
No, but hearing this is our year and we're back. That's something a lot of Cowboys fans say. Are you a Cowboys fan, Zach?
Oh no.
Okay, good thing. I'm not either, and that's a good thing actually.
I am a huge Texas Rangers fan, though. I don't know if y'all watch any MLB baseball, but it is a great year to be a Rangers fan right now.
No, but it goes back to my question I think last week. America's pastime's no longer baseball, so I'm not going to watch.
Hey, fair enough. Fair enough.
But I will watch Ouachita baseball. You guys have been were outstanding last season, and I imagine that is going to be the same result.
Absolutely. We actually have our first few, us and softball, have our first few fall scrimmages, so we're just now getting started up. We actually play this Friday and next Friday at home, so y'all should definitely come out and check it out. Anybody listening should definitely come out and check it out.
We'll definitely be looking forward to this next year, or this next semester, where you guys will open your seasons. And but for a GAC Overachiever segment, not a lot has been going around with former GAC players in professional football. I have noticed that Segun Alubi, who was a former Harding Bison before he transferred to San Diego State, he's not this past week, but the week before, he's playing for the Indianapolis Colts. He's a linebacker. He was able to get 4 tackles in that game. So for I think it was his first season where he's gotten statistics. So, I know he wasn't always a Bison for his college career, but
it counts.
It still counts. And congratulations, Segun. I doubt you're watching. I am messing up my pronunciations, but I doubt you're watching. But so we'll go ahead and end it right there. But thank you so much for tuning in to this week's edition of the Roar Rundown Sports Podcast. We have plenty to talk about next week, so make sure you tune in for episode number 8. So take care and go Tigers.